movie.
The elements are covered.
Yeah.
So he's like, Jason is really the Captain Planet of the horror world.
Yes!
Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid. See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie.
And Nikisha.
Where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Ooh, you really sing-songed that one. Welcome.
I don't know what that was about. Yeah, I think there's some people that are bringing out that energy within me. We'll get
maybe
to
a
that.
day, a particular day that's really bringing out that energy.
You know, I'm seeing 1 and 3 in my brain on a Friday.
Whoa.
So
is that telekinesis?
I think it is. That's it. You've exposed my secret, producer Brian. Guys, it is Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th. However you celebrate it. In October.
A legendary
it's the
day.
Best time of the year. Yes. And so, of course, today we must discuss one of the Friday the 13th movies, but which one are we talking about? We're talking about the 1988 Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I threw up the fingers really fast and then was like, wait a minute.
Is it 7? Did I get it? Great. Okay, so Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, was directed by one John Carl Buechler, which I looked it up. He is mostly known as a special effects makeup artist. So he not only directed this movie, but he also did the special effects makeup for it, and a lot of other movies, including one called A Gingerdead Man 2, Passion of the Crust. Take a moment.
Wow.
And you guys, the movie is available for free on Tubi. I watched the first 10 minutes of it. If you just need something, I don't know what, but if you need something, please watch Gingerdead Man 2.
Should that be our Christmas film?
Oh my gosh. Don't even get me started. But the special effects, I mean, for what it was, the makeup was pretty incredible for practical makeup and obviously not, CGI. But I just had to throw that tidbit of information in there as we talk about this as well, because I'm sure some of the special effects makeup will come up in this. So this movie stars one Lar Park Lincoln, Kevin Blair, Susan Blue, Terry Kaiser, and Kane Hodder as Jason. And this is his first movie as Jason, and he does the subsequent two after that, I believe. But Matt, our guest, after Brian introduces him, will probably correct me if I'm wrong in this. So
it
obviously
is the 3 after, but
the 3 after. Okay, yeah. Fantastic.
Well, let's get into it.
He's
Jason
10.
X.
Yes, he is.
Jason, oh god, and we have an episode on that one too, guys. So you have to go back and, watch Jason X.
In order.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place, but that's our brand. I like it. We give you the content.
Hashtag trying our best.
Hashtag trying our best. Okay, well, you've heard his voice. I'm going to let producer Brian introduce our special guest with us today.
Yeah, we are happy to returning. He lives. We're very excited to have Matthew Woods back with us. At Hallow Woods on social media. His art is amazing. He is one of my inspirations for loving horror movies for sure. And I'm so happy to have him back. So you've heard him on the Scream episode, so now we're getting into Friday the 13th with him on the 13th.
Super excited. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm so happy to be here and so excited to talk about this, my favorite Friday the 13th movie, with you.
Fantastic.
We're excited to hear your thoughts, see all your props, everything that you had for us.
Yeah, peeping the shirt for those that can.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, hi, YouTube. Hi,
YouTube.
And then you can find us at Talk Horror Pod wherever you're on social media, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, Threads. There's a lot of stuff, but just search for Talk Horror Pod and you'll probably find us somewhere.
Beautiful. Well, obviously heavy spoilers for this and probably a lot of, or some of the other movies in the chain, because I know that I have some questions about that as well that I'm excited to get answered. And Jamie, please give us the trigger warnings for this.
I'm going to do my best. I mean, all right. Baseline, this is obviously a slasher film. You can expect loads of insides on the outside, in any variety of ways, a wide array of tools to facilitate this, from the silent to the louder, a la tool shed, sharp things, hands,
sleeping bags and trees.
Yeah.
The greatest.
The greatest.
Just as a sneak peek, that was definitely my favorite kill. There is also there's a lot of telekinesis that takes place in this movie, so if that makes you uncomfortable, it's a major theme in this one. There's also some not so great mental health professionaling going on, so I'm gonna start giving some trigger warnings for that.
Yes.
Maybe for myself. And
bullying.
just a lot of death, bullying, a lot of sex, because this is a Friday the 13th part of the chain,
and
so lots of nudity,
allusions to domestic violence.
Yes.
Yes.
In the beginning, there is definitely references to intimate partner violence, and am I missing anything?
Fire.
Yeah.
Woods. You afraid of the woods? I don't know.
Spooky woods,
Fire,
lakes,
there's water,
drowning.
there's
Drowning.
hanging, there's electrocution,
electrocution.
there's...
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah.
All the elements. If you're afraid of elements, watch this movie.
The elements are covered.
Yeah.
He's like, Jason is really the Captain Planet of the horror world.
Yes. That is fantastic.
Wind, fire,
Fire.
chains.
Oh, yes. Great. Well, before we get into everything that is Friday the 13th Part 7, is there anything new that you guys have watched or gone to? Anything you would like to share with the people?
No, just this one. But I know, Matt, you've been to some cool stuff lately.
Yeah, I just went and saw The Shark is Broken.
I'm
Which is,
so
Oh, wow.
jealous.
It's a Broadway show about the making of Jaws. It is, the whole show is Richard Dreyfuss, Roy Schneider, and Robert Shaw. It was written and stars Robert Shaw's son as his dad. And it's all the imagined conversations that those three actors have in between takes when they're stuck on the ocean in the boat waiting for the shark to get up and running again.
That is fantastic. Did you enjoy it? Would you recommend it?
I did. I would recommend it. I went in with pretty low expectations, and it was better than I expected.
That's
Wonderful.
awesome.
Yeah, it had a few poignant things to say about specifically art, because notoriously Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss did not get along and had very opposing views about how they were going about their character and performing, and so a lot of that comes up, and it obviously paints Robert Shaw in a much better light than he's historically known for, because it was written by his son. But it was quite good. I liked it.
Cool.
They had one of the original, the yellow barrels from the Jaws movie was part of the set.
Really?
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah. It was cool.
How long is it?
It's an hour and a half, no intermission.
Okay.
So it's just
90 minutes.
So it's
one
perfect.
act straight
It's a perfect
through.
length.
Yeah, perfect length.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll have to try and go and see that one because it just seems interesting, that concept too. So
Friends were
fantabulous.
talking about it every day. He's like, oh man, I just really want to see it.
I really have to see it.
I'm
I mean,
sure.
it's my favorite movie. I have to see this thing.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, that's like your bread and butter. Just
Yeah.
you know, monster, animal things, horror things.
100%. I would love to see that. And then, Matt, you did something very cool this summer. I saw you had a blast at Midsummer Scream. Where is it again?
In Long Beach, California. Candyland for Halloween lovers. One half of it is like is what you expect from a convention. It's like a lot of booths, sellers, there's like talks and presentations, but the other side of it is all in the dark, and it is all sample-sized haunted houses.
What?
And like nighttime demonstrations. It's like kind of a teaser for like Not Scary Farm and what is it? Like 5-room walkthroughs of their haunted houses.
And we have to go next year. We have to go next year.
We have to plan it to go. How long is it?
It's Friday through Sunday. It's like Friday night, Saturday all day, and then Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, we got to make it. We got to make it happen.
And
Yeah,
Saturday
next year-
night, they have like a costume party. They like bring in a DJ, and there's like dancing and costumes and a contest, and it's like a little bit of Halloween like sandwiched right in the middle of the summer.
That's
Obsessed.
awesome. And
It
you were
is
able to
awesome.
meet a lot of your mutuals there too. Like, and I'm sure that added to the experience.
Yeah, I met a bunch of people that I knew purely through Instagram and podcasts and stuff like that I never actually met in person, which was so wonderful.
That's awesome.
People like actually connect. So good.
That's amazing.
Yes, I
I
love
love
that.
that.
Speaking of costumes, do y'all have your outfits ready for Halloween yet? Have you thought about what you were gonna do? Gonna be?
So we throw a party every year that's on a theme, and this year the theme is Enter the Feywild. And so my husband and I are dressing as the opposite Fey courts. He will be head of the Seelie court, which is like the earth and light, and I will be head of the unseelie court, which is the air and the darkness.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
I love that.
And so we want everybody to dress choosing a side.
Yeah.
And so we're going to
Sure.
see who has a bigger court by the end.
That's cool.
It's going to be
That's
me.
very cool.
Of course, reason number 8,154, whatever, that I need to get off the road so I can go to these parties.
Yes!
I know.
Attend the Halloween things. Ugh. Fun times. Although I will be spending Halloween in Chicago, so I'm super excited.
Cool.
And we have Halloween off, which is so random because it's a Tuesday, I believe.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
It's like they
so
knew.
I'm super excited.
They
Yeah.
do.
They know.
They're like, we'll just give you guys the day off. Just celebrate as you will, which I will.
Wait, so have you thought of costumes?
I have not. I'm so late in the game.
So we have our Jamie and I have a costume that we did for Comic-Con. Carl and Ellie from Up.
Fantastic.
Like when they're
For
kids.
that, yeah.
Fantastic.
But for the weekend of Halloween, we're actually going to be in Arizona for a family event. So we need to figure out like what we're going to do on Halloween proper on that Tuesday.
But we have started doing research on local area haunted houses to do when we have some free time. So I'm very
In
nice.
Arizona.
yeah, very excited.
Yes. That'd be a
But-
fun time.
One thing that we eventually want to do, but we really want to plan the costume out like right, is we really want to do Laszlo.
I have a list. I have a list of like things that I would love to be able to do, like both personal
Yes.
but also couples. Oh yeah, we talked about Laszlo and Nadja from What We Do in the Shadows recently.
That is an excellent couple's costume.
Yeah. New York City.
So you're going to
truly-
be Laszlo like Jackie Daytona, or...
Just me, your average human bartender.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, yes. But I think, yeah.
Girls
That's all
volleyball
I
coach,
am.
right?
Yeah, that's all I am. Just your average, regular human bartender with the toothpick and everything.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite shows. I just
Same.
like truly, it brings me so much deep joy.
Yeah, we caught up with that. That's something we watched recently. We
We
finished the
watched
season.
the finale of that. Yeah.
I still haven't watched it. I have to get into it.
It's really good.
I actually
Nice.
just watched Us for the first time the other night.
What'd you think?
So I skipped Us in Talking Horror because I hadn't seen it yet. But now I have to go back and listen to it.
Yes.
So I actually don't know what you thought of it, but I liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all collectively liked it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Jordan Peele. Of course you like it.
Yeah,
it's
Of
great.
course. Yes.
The thing about Jordan Peele is, like, there's always something to take from it that will last
Yes.
with you, and that's, like, pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Great.
But
Well,
I will say, Nikisha, in preparation for this episode, I have been binging all of the Friday the 13th movies in the
No
chain.
way.
good
So-
for you.
So
In
I'm
order
up-
all the way up to this.
Yes.
Wow. Good for you.
The only ones I have not seen overall, because I've seen X and stuff like that. I have not seen Manhattan, and I have not seen Goes to Hell, and I have not seen Freddy versus Jason, because I haven't seen all of the Elm Street movies. So once I finish this and I finish all the Elm Street movies, then I'll do Freddy versus Jason and see how I actually feel about it. Yeah, and I will say, this is not a spoiler. Of all the chain movies that I've seen so far, I think this is my favorite chain.
I think it's mine too.
I we'll get into it, but before, I just want to say, like, I did not anticipate and expect each movie to actually be a real sequel to the one before it. As insane as it is, they all are an actual, like, these things happened. We're not retconning anything, like, outside of the remake, the reboot, remake, or requel, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's all I'll say. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, and that's so interesting because I literally just watched a TikTok about the evolution of Michael Myers, and it kept saying, like, and then it ignores everything that happened in the previous movie, and then does this, like, so many times, and then it, like, justifies, like, why Michael Myers is changing because, like, the whole storyline is changing. So that is interesting that this one is one that is direct sequel after sequel after sequel. So let's get into it because we're talking about it. Let's get into our first segment of likes and gripes.
Oh, wait, we didn't even do
what's this movie
plot.
about?
Oh no! I was just so excited because I want to hear people's thoughts about it.
For a second, I thought I was going to get out of it.
Oh, I mean, I totally forgot.
You're like, I'm so close.
Sorry, guys. Okay, well, we need a plot summary first, and because we have a guest, our one Matthew is going to do the 2-minute plot summary of Friday the 13th, Part 7, New Blood.
What's the plot?
Yeah, because I'm the one off the hook now.
Yeah.
Brian's like, we're not passing up this chance.
All right. Matt, are you ready?
Hold on. Before we start, the only way I can properly talk about this.
So excited.
Okay, now I'm ready.
All right. 2 minutes on the clock.
Oh, wait, before we start, one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not delaying, I swear. I have yet to do a successful plot summary on this podcast. I fuck it up every time, so I took copious notes. I have bullet points on the plot. Let's see if I can still fuck it up.
All right.
It's going to be wonderful.
It's going to be amazing. 2 minutes. Ready. Go.
So we open with a previously on. For all of you who have not watched any movie, came in at 7, you get everything that happened before in a short clip. Then to baby Tina, who kills her abusive father using her dormant telekinetic powers. Flash forward to the future, teen Tina is back at the lake house where she killed her father with her mother and her therapist. Immediately, we learn her therapist is a dick and starts pushing her to reawaken her dormant powers. He's a true asshole. Then we meet Hunky Nick, who's next door having a party with all the horny teens. Hunky Nick invites Teen Tina over to the party with all the horny teens to do horny teen shit. Bitch Melissa is mean to Tina, pulling a prank, and Tina's powers suddenly down to the
1
dock
minute.
to, like, get a moment or so. She runs sad. She thinks about her dad, and instead of resurrecting her father, resurrects Jason. Jason arises and goes after horny teen after horny teen after horny teen on a
30
real
seconds.
slasher fest while Hunky Nick and Teen Tina are on a hike. There's a lot of messy plot after that, some discovery. Tina's upset back and forth about a whole bunch of things. We get to the best part, which is Jason versus Tina. She tries to kill him with a power line, furniture, a collapsing porch, hanging him with a light, throwing him through the stairs, squeezing his mask,
10.
nail bullets, lighting him on fire. The house explodes, and finally, on the docks,
5.
her father comes back to life and saves the day.
That's it. You did
That
it.
was genius.
Amazing.
And that's the plot.
Complete with the best nicknames for characters I have ever heard. So
I mean, they're such stereotypes. They're such stereotypes.
which is the best because it's just following in line with like the
They're
chain of it
leaning
all.
right into it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful. Teen Tina and Hunky. Wait, what was his name?
Hunky
Nick.
Nick.
Hunky Nick. Teen Tina and Hunky Nick. Fantastic. And the Dick
Teen Tina the
Therapist.
telekinetic.
Teen Tina the telekinetic. Yes.
Wow.
That's a Halloween outfit right there. Teen Tina. Great. Okay, so now let's get into our first segment, which is likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So I'll throw this to Jamie. Can you please tell us your relationship with this movie? If this is your first time or have you seen it before? And then give us your likes and gripes, girl.
Yeah, this was my first time watching this. I also have not watched
think I knew
these
that.
in order. I have not been joining Brian on his journey to watch all of these, but I did watch 6 with Brian. So I at least had that one to go off of, and I've seen the first one. So I've had those to go off of to continue, and I've seen 10 like a bajillion times, which is why that's why the sleeping bag kill is so good, because I was like, oh, this is where they did it. This is perfect.
Yes.
But so I really had a fun time watching this. Like after a full 24 hours of letting it all sit in, it's a wildly silly movie. And when we get to the 4 S's, once again, I have to say, it might not reflect the joy that I had while watching this film, but I did enjoy it. So I just want to put that out there. As soon as like we get telekinesis, when she's in the boat and she's like, I want my daddy to die, and then the thing starts shaking, I was like, oh, is this telekinesis? What? And I was
It's like in the first 3 minutes.
yeah, instantly my I was like working on notes and I was like, all right, it's gonna be like another one of these slashers. Here we go. But like, no, that totally grabbed my attention and I was in. That being said, it is very silly. I love your description of like teens doing like just teen stuff. I was like, who are all of these people? I guess it doesn't really matter because they're all gonna die eventually.
Right.
So
I think literally all of them, but one.
yeah,
Yeah.
every single one of them. It's just like a fun time. Obviously, as a therapist, major scrutiny on Dr. Cruz, little psychiatrist.
Crazy.
Not my favorite. Wasn't too keen on his tactics, on his approach. But I'm sure I'll hold out so we can get into it. Unless you want to hash some of it out now, but I thought he was a duty head.
I want you to save it all for Brains.
Okay.
And then dig in there.
I'll just let you know,
Just
I thought he
get
was a
in
duty
there.
head. But I really liked her mom. I thought that she was a really good supportive character who also like seemingly believed her, where you don't get that a lot of times in a lot of these movies. I get very tired of the trope of like parents not listening to children. And it like frustrates me, and maybe that says more about who I am anyway. But like I liked that the mom was kind of like, oh, like I want to do whatever you need to improve yourself or like deal with all of this. I like that she lets her go to like be a kid and hang out with the other teens. Like,
she
that
encourages
really,
her.
Yeah, I loved that. That felt way more real of like, I care about my daughter and I just want her to like feel like she's normal and living the life that I know she can live. So like that actually I think is a huge plus for this movie. But like all of the characters are, I guess I'll get into some of my gripes. All of the characters are just like not people, period. They're just not doing things. They're not making decisions that people do. But really like my biggest gripe is like Tina has no, and yes, there are characters in movies that like also have powers and whatnot that have little control over their powers, but she had like no control over her emotions in like a wildly unrealistic way, and like that was super distracting. And the way that she was acting, and then I had like a moment of like, let me reflect more on her as a person, which was hard to do because she wasn't being a person. But there is an element of like, she experienced this loss very early in her life, and she kind of is still acting like a child throughout this whole movie. When she has these like temper tantrums, it's very juvenile and like weird. But when I thought about it more, I was like, maybe she's like stuck in this time where like her father died in front of her, and like she has not been able to move on from that, and like that has like had this impact on her like mentally, where she is like still like reacting like a child. But it took me a long time to get to that place because I was just very distracted by her like wildly erratic change in mood constantly. So that's the reason that I'm going to give, and hopefully, you know, that feels doable and real. Another gripe I had was like, I didn't remember a lot of these characters, and then there's just so many people in this house. Like, I have no idea. When it started, I thought there was like 4 or 5 of them, and then there just kept being people. There was more people coming down the stairs, and I was like, where the fuck did you come from? And then, and then my favorite part, not really, but like a very funny part, is you have like 3 couples simultaneously having sex, and I was like, who are all of you? And like, why do I need this sequence of like all, like, you all collectively decided to all have sex at the same exact time? You're sending out real like signals out to, like, Jason's gonna know that you're all fucking all at once because like the powers are so strong. It was just so ridiculous to me in that moment. I was like, I don't even know who half of you are. I didn't need all of these. Like, I guess you're getting like a wild amount of kills, which like that's what everybody's here for, is to see all the creative ways that like people are gonna die. I did like the one couple that was having sex in the van later in the movie, because I'm pretty sure that happens multiple times, so I want to clarify. The ones later in the movie where they think their friend, was their friend named Michael? They think it's Michael on the outside of the van, and for some reason, while they're like mostly naked, they decide they want to say surprise and open the van doors up.
It's very
and
important.
no one's there. But one of them goes outside and he's like blowing on the stupid like whir, whir, but it like doesn't sound like any birthday toy thing I've ever heard before. And then my second favorite kill is when she gets killed with it like through her face. So I was like, good. I didn't want to listen to this like weird Vuvuzela sound like any longer. The bitchy girl.
Melissa.
Yes.
Oh my God. That was also like unbelievable to watch. Like, she was just so, it was so extreme that she like literally can't have a conversation with any like female character, and like just is like boner central on every single male in this movie. Like, it was like, so I was like, no one's going to want to talk, like nobody's going to want to talk to you because like you're not even willing to like engage like a normal human. Like, at least you pretended to be nice to like try to have sex with that one guy, and then you were like, just kidding, I don't like this. But like, obviously you're good at pretending, like just pretend with everybody. It was just so weird. so I was really excited for her death at the end.
Same.
I was that
She
really
survived a
got me.
lot longer than I thought she would.
But like I
Right.
think all of the like duty head characters do survive a lot longer because then you're rooting for them to die, and then it's like more exciting when like
Sure.
when she dies or when like the psychiatrist died. I was like, yeah, like give it to him, power tools, get him. And even that was like, I don't know, I didn't even find that kill particularly satisfying. Like I think there were other ones that were better. There's one where he like punches fully through a body.
Through the chest.
Yeah.
Favorite.
That was a great one.
So you're touching on my gripe a little bit.
Ooh.
So I think.
Do we have the same gripe?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, you say it, and then I'll say if it was my same one.
My gripe is with the MPAA.
Yes, my gripe is that it is clearly edited to take out the gore.
It is. Because all of these kills were so spectacular because the director also is the special effects. So he had it ready. The doctor's kill, that like circular saw, catches his intestines and pulls them out as it wraps around the saw.
Oh, that would have been so good.
So much better.
He was
my God.
he even says in interviews, we knew we had to give the doctor an awful death that would be
Yes.
crowd pleasing. And they
Yes.
took all of it out.
Wow.
Is there a director's cut of this?
There's some like deleted scenes on some of the later releases, but there's no like master cut that puts all those back in.
Or do they exist?
I think some of them exist.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my actual. All my other gripes are silly, but like that's my biggest like actual gripe about this movie. It
And
feels
like
neutered.
Melissa's death was, she gets hit with the axe and splits her head down the middle, and both of her eyes spin in different directions before he throws her across the room. But they cut
my God.
That's the movie I
I'm
want to
so
see.
mad.
Yeah.
I got ripped off. Oh, man.
Right.
What a
It's still a good
bummer.
time, but like
It is still
Yeah.
a good time, but it would have been elevated with those.
it has the highest kill
Absolutely.
count, but the least amount of blood of any of the franchise.
If this had
Interesting.
more of the gore and like what you're describing, this would have shot up my list higher.
Of
than
course,
it is right
yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Well,
Because they were
I
making a
also-
comedy.
One of the things that it said on the Wikipedia that I thought was interesting, and I wonder if that's why, is this was around the time when they started conversations around having a crossover between Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. And so like this was like a higher standard of quality than some of the past ones, and maybe because they like I'm assuming that meant like wider audience, and as a result of that obviously they're going to like reduce the gore, but like that's oh man, that version would have been incredible, especially with with this director. Like that's the whole point, and
That's
like
the point.
we love the
Yeah.
practical effects, so that's a bummer that they kind of
You're right, Jamie. This was originally pitched and greenlit to be a Freddy versus Jason, but they couldn't get New Line on board to get Freddy, so they changed it to Jason versus Carrie, which is why we get the telekinesis.
Oh, okay, all right, interesting.
Yeah, this went through rewrites like up until the day they started filming,
That's
jeez.
fascinating.
which is also why it's like kind of a mess.
Oh, yeah.
I would take the word kind of out of that sentence.
Oh, that's so
It is a mess.
interesting.
It is a mess.
But it's interesting to
Jamie-
think that this is like then the start of those conversations because of like what follows. Like even I remember reading a lot, like obviously my interest in Jason X. There's so much behind the scenes about that too, because it's all related to them trying to get this crossover to happen eventually.
Yep.
But like that story's a mess because they weren't really sure where the timeline was going to end up, and then they were like, whatever, it just has to get back to like when they cross paths. So like it's just. I find all of that super interesting.
Jamie, you specifically last night when we watched this told me to remind you of your biggest gripe of this film.
Oh, was that the when the naked person is in the lake one?
Yes.
And they were like zooming in into her vagina.
Before the VAD zoom.
No, I don't even remember, which is why I'm glad that I told you to remind me.
Her choice of underwear.
Oh my god! I'm sorry. This has to be parlor talk. I like literally screamed at Brian about this yesterday. When she takes off her jean shorts, her jorts, if you will, she is not wearing nay another article of clothing in between her flesh and her jorts. I don't know how many of you listeners out there are also carriers of vaginas, but there is no fucking world where you are not wearing underwear with jeans. Good God, that is not comfortable.
That's painful.
That's painful. I was shocked. I was wearing jeans, and I was like, I was like literally like readjusting my jeans because they already were uncomfortable. There's no world where I will ever believe that anyone is walking around with jeans and not wearing underwear. I am sorry. That is that took me out. Thank you for reminding me.
Panty parlor talk.
Oh my god.
Come, sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
Wild. But yeah, that vagina zoom was like hysterical.
Oh,
yeah, I literally was
like
they're still on. The shot is
they
still
kept going.
on.
They kept going.
It kept going.
Oh my god.
So, fun fact, they filmed this in the middle of winter, and that girl got hypothermia filming that scene.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's awful.
Like, they
awful.
would make all the actors put ice cubes in their mouths right before they started shooting so that you wouldn't see their breath when they talked.
That makes sense.
That's cool.
That's so fascinating.
Wow.
One of mine is, what season is this?
Also
Yeah.
It's both a like and a gripe, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but also like, man, I know it's called Crystal Lake, but that murky lake is so clear when you're underneath the water.
That swimming pool?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that swimming hole.
pool.
Yeah, that swimming hole. Yeah, like that tributary of the lake, I guess. I would love, I'm sure someone's done it, I would love to see like a topographical map of like the area and like where each movie took place. Like, where's the camp? Where's this one? Where's the fifth one? I'm sure someone's made it, like a fan or something like that.
I can tell you where this one was filmed. Nikisha, you'll find this particularly interesting.
Oh, Lord.
It's from Mobile, Alabama.
Shut up. Obsessed. Wow. Probably in Dolphin Island or something in that area or the Gulf. Yes. So funny.
That's amazing.
Wow. The only thing Mobile is good for is making shooting horror films. So I take it. That and Get Out.
That's a great claim to fame.
Absolutely. Oh, and Mardi Gras. Don't let anyone tell you that New Orleans started because it's Mobile and they will fight you. So.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't want to
Mobile
get into any fights.
originated in Mardi Gras originated in Mobile.
Cool.
But yeah, fun fact for that. Awesome. Well, Jamie, do you have any more likes and gripes before we move on?
My only other real gripe is I cannot believe that nobody ate shit while running in the woods.
Yes.
Especially the one girl who's like, I have to get dolled up, or I forget what the line is. I'm sure Brian
Girl,
wrote it down.
I have the line. After she does it,
Yeah.
she literally looks in the mirror and she says, "Need a little touch up, work my ass."
Yeah. She's running around in those heels.
No, she did a full makeover on herself and like changed what she looks like.
Yes. I'll piggyback off of Jamie because we have similar things, and I'll just go through it real quickly because I really want to hear, like, with Brian leading up to this movie and then Matthew just with his love of this movie. So I will say that this is my first time watching this one, but I feel like I've watched the first 2 or 3 of this, and then I definitely watched the remake, requel, whatever, that came out, in like 2009 or something. And so this was all new for me, but this is my bread and butter as far as like my love for slashers. And in previous conversations, we talked about like the subgenres of movies that we like, but in watching this, I just really, it came to me that I just like it because it's so absurd and obnoxious. It just puts me right in the spirit of like Halloween, like as the most absurd that it can be, the more that I'm in. So with this, just how crazy it was, like Jamie said, not knowing who anybody was and people just coming out of the woodwork. I literally, one of my comments was like, oh, hey, random black girl and black boy, where did you come from? Because you weren't there at all. And then I was just like waiting, okay, so when are they going to die? And they lasted a little longer than I thought they would too. And that was great. And I had a great time. I loved that there was a recap of the previous movie.
Where did you come from?
Love a previously on.
Oh my God, sorry.
No, you're good. Love a previously on, and the minute that girl looked at her father with those eyes, just how she was acting was so hilarious that I was just audibly laughing the whole time. And like Jamie said, the minute that they introduced that she had telekinesis, I literally put in all caps, I'm in. This is it. This is for me. So I'm trying to not repeat what Jamie said, because literally she said all of the things. Like all of these kids coming for this birthday party. Also, Tina going with a stranger to a party with people that she doesn't even know. I was like, that's a little like weird, but okay, girl, like do your thing. I guess just because it's right next door and your mom is present if anything were to happen, but that was just kind of weird to me. My favorite kill along with the sleeping bag, because I feel like I saw that before in like a Watch Mojo, like the most random kills. Like that was my favorite, but also what Jamie said, literally when he pushed his whole entire fist through that boy camper, I laughed out loud for several minutes.
So did we.
Because it was just the greatest thing. The people not peopling was especially true when our girl with the glasses ran into the shed and did not pick up any weapon, and they pan the camera to a whole bunch of different weapons that she could have choose from, and then she just runs right past all of them and like hides. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Also, does nobody hear the screams in the house when Jason is like killing people in the house? Like nobody is questioning anything, nobody's hearing anything. There are people just like waiting, like the girl waiting in the bed after the stoner guy went to the refrigerator to like get food or whatever, and then he gets killed like by the refrigerator. It's like y'all didn't hear any of that commotion that just happened. Really random. I do like the fact that Tina with telekinesis was at least trying to do some damage to Jason, but what was hilarious to me is that she thought that a piece of the porch falling on him killed him more than her watching him be electrocuted, because she turns to Hunky Nick and she literally is like, I killed him, he's dead, after the porch falls on him. And I'm like, girl, if he didn't die after electrocution, do you think just some pieces of wood falling on him like killed him? No thank you.
That's a good point.
And one of the other things I really enjoyed was seeing Jason's real face for so long, because I don't know if that is something that happens throughout the other movies, but it felt like this was a long time with him without his mask on, and so I really did appreciate that, and at least the special effects makeup, could showcase that, since it couldn't showcase a lot of the gore. And my last thing was the father coming back out of the water, and there's no decay on his face. It was just dirt.
Looking good,
He's
dead
been in there
dad.
for years. And he comes up, and he looks just great. And that crystal clear lake didn't do anything to him. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes, no dead dad. Like, thank you for saving the day, but also, okay, cool. Other than that, I had a great time watching this movie. I love watching movies like this. It just like makes my spirit happy for some reason, watching all of these random kills, because they're just so funny, and it just takes me back to when I first was watching this as a child and laughing at it. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Brian, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. So these movies are not my bag. Like, this is not what I enjoy. Like, this is not the type. But as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I've been binging all of the Friday the 13th movies, and I am converted to these movies. Like, these movies, it's so interesting to me that I just don't dig these movies. Like, I don't dig this type of movie, and I dig these movies. And I think it's because they are sequels to each other. I like that. I like that there's something to be like, invested in, and I like the kills, and I like that it gets sillier over time. Now, if I was invested as a young person in the first one being a little bit more serious, and then these got more silly, I don't think I would be as interested as like watching them all now and watching them grow or devolve, however you want to like describe it.
Same.
Yeah, that to me is really fun. And so I've been really enjoying these a lot. So here are my likes for this movie. I mentioned a lot of them before already. I love a movie where your main character's hair is frizzy, so that means they're a mess. Love it.
Yes.
Jason's been through a lot. Honestly,
a lot.
Before this movie started, having watched what is it, 7? So 6 movies before this, and like seeing him still at the bottom of that lake after like many years, I was like, this guy's been through so much. I like feel bad for him. Cousin Michael's a bitch. We worked with him for like 2 minutes, and I hated him, and I loved that.
Oh yeah.
The Jason makeup is outrageous, and I love that. But I'm not even talking like the clear gloves he's wearing with like bones peeking through, and like a spine that's nowhere close to where his actual spine would be. Like, I love all of that stuff, and in the best way.
It's a top surface spine.
Yeah, totally. He's an exoskeleton. This is a weird little detail, but the friend who's writing the space graphic novel or the space novel or whatever he's writing, his handwriting on that like legal pad or the legal piece of paper is awful. It looks like he wrote it with his other hand backwards, and that's so charming to me. He was one of my favorite characters because he's just nerding out, and like I don't know how he's friends with these people, but I love it. I didn't. One of my people just say things in this movie, and I love that. Like, people just say things. Like, I think, like, especially Melissa, she just says things to, like, it's like when people, like, are trying to ignore you, and they say, like, well, that's people, or, like, you know, like to end the conversation. Like, Melissa did that on every one of her lines, and I loved that. Melissa is also deeply unhinged. The fact that Nick point blank to her face says, I am not interested in you. There are many other people here. You should go and like do that. And then she's like, I'm going to go and seduce this guy, hoping that Nick gets jealous. He's like, he just told you to your face. Men are not, like, in these movies, men are not honest. Nick was like the most honest dude I've ever seen in a movie like this before. And Melissa's unhinged. The girl from the van, all over the place. Oh, the girl was sleeping with the other guy in the van at the beginning. The one that dies in the light that takes her pants off or whatnot with, parlor talk, Penny parlor talk. She's like 3 different characters in this movie. Like, she's this gold digger in one scene. She's this trailer trash in another scene. Like, who are you, ma'am? I love that. I also wrote there are a lot of people in this house. Nobody saw her makeup. Oh, she gets all dolled up and no one sees it. I felt so bad.
That's a good point.
She doesn't even look in the house. She looks for her friends outside first.
Yeah, why did? Oh, that was one of my gripes. Why did she immediately run outside?
Girl, where are you going?
Where are you going?
Some of my gripes about this movie. My number one gripe, as Matt mentioned, is the edit. I wanted more gore from it. My second gripe, and I know this adds to the insane aspect of this, and it feels very 80s, that the abusive dad is the hero. I hated that so much. But my jaw dropped for the like surprise of that moment. Like, that's one of my favorite, like, what the fuck is happening here moments in the entire chain and series so far. But like that just definitely rubbed me the wrong way in general. Like, even more than him not being decomposed. Like, okay, sure.
They should give him a musical number. You love that too.
Yes. Oh my God. Please. Never. Oh, I hate it. Never give the villain. I'm sorry. We didn't need to do that. You're 100%
How
right.
many parlor talks?
They show flashbacks a lot in this movie. Literally, the first 10 minutes of this movie is what happened to Tina, and then she gets to the lake, and it's a flashback of something we saw 5 minutes beforehand. I loved it. It was insane.
That's so true.
So the doctor believes that she can move things with her mind, but like her visions are illusions.
And she says that.
To me, that was very funny. I wrote time is all over the place. I don't know what that means. I mean, this is a thing that like doesn't actually matter, but like it's just a poorly paced movie with a change of focus over and over again, and like, but that's part of the fun of it, I think.
Yeah.
How did the cat get in the cupboard? How long has it been there? The poor cat.
The poor cat.
Poor cat.
Oh, the window kill and the flop at the end. Truly,
He throws her out the window.
What?
He throws her out the window.
He throws her out the window one way. She goes out the other way. So like one shot is her pushing out the window. Then he pushes her like face forward. She goes out backwards, and then when she hits the ground, it's like a flop. It's amazing. It's so good.
Oh my god.
I love that he has so many power tools, and in my head I imagine Jason be like, "Well, I guess I got to go back to the tool shed and get the next one." That was awesome.
Grab another one.
The doctor should have been killed by Tina, and his death was lame. But like Matt explained that whole scenario, like Tina killing the doctor would have been way more satisfying than Jason. I almost wanted Tina and Jason to team up at the end. There's also a lot of running in the woods, but I mean that in like all of a sudden, like, we gotta go in the woods. Let's go back to the house. We'll go in the woods. I really had a hard time tracking where everyone was at the end of this movie. But once it's just Tina versus Jason, like, I forgot all about that. And then also, here's my random one. This is my random. I feel like people in the 80s love that like 20th century limited like train art print, that like Miami Art Deco style of like poster, because the abusive dad had all this like train weird memorabilia in his office. I don't know, that was just like a weird
thing to discover.
detail. I don't know. But also, and Matt, I have a question for you, and Jamie and I were discussing this. When the mom or Tina, I forget it is, pulls out all those articles on Jason and Crystal Lake, were those the doctor's articles, or were those the dad's articles from all those years beforehand?
I think they're the doctor's articles. I think that is... Actually, that's a good point. I don't know. I guess I just naturally, I assumed that it was the doctor, and that teased them off to like that he's actually like nefarious and not just a raging asshole. But I don't know why he would bring her there to try and raise Jason.
Yeah. Anyway, so some of my favorite quotes are, "Don't drink anymore. Don't tell me what to do. Let me tell you something about women." The doctor multiple times saying, "It just proves my point," or like "case closed," or whatever he says, made me laugh every single time. "I got a date with soap on the rope." Okay, slow down there, buddy.
Also an improv line.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
love it.
But my favorite moment of the whole movie is when he says, "It's dark in here. Meanwhile, it's a very bright room."
That's all we were talking about. It was very well lit.
Yeah.
Very well lit.
But I do want to say, I don't know, maybe I'll save this for the end, but I do want to go through my current up-to-date rankings of Friday the 13th before I get into 8 and 9.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But we'll save that then for the ending part. Wonderful. All right, Matthew, you're up. Tell us all your things, your thoughts, and why you chose this, or why you like this particular.
Yeah, you picked this. You picked this.
Yeah.
The good point, Nikisha.
So I think I'm mostly going to talk about that because I don't have gripes for this movie.
Love it.
Sure.
Like, everything you said, good and bad, I like.
Yeah.
Like, all the, like, terribleness, like, everything that makes this movie so unbelievable and so schlocky and so over the top and blah, blah, blah. Like, I love it all. My biggest gripe, like I said before, is with the MPAA, and that this movie could have been so much greater, but they censored it. That being said, my favorite moment in this movie is when Jason jumps through the window into the birthday party and freezes.
Yes.
Like, I have arrived.
He just stands there.
Stood there.
He just stands there.
Yes.
It's so good. It's so good. They just like hung on it a little too long before they were like, cut.
Yeah.
Yes.
That felt very like Freddy at the pool party in the second one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm sure there are references all over the place back and forth that like someone has meticulously picked out. I also can tell you that our favorite kill, the sleeping bag kill, when it went to the MPAA the first time, Jason slams her against that tree 8 times.
Oh, what?
Incredible.
This movie,
Oh God.
before they got an R rating, this movie got 7 X ratings from the MPAA, which means every time it came back, they were like, one less sleeping bag hit. One less sleeping bag hit.
Oh, no.
One less. Until there's one in the movie.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
So sad.
That is, it's very sad.
Haters.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters. They're haters. So I think I chose this movie primarily, not just because like it's so much fun and like it's over the top and silly, and it like is a great emblem of what Friday the 13th is overall. Like much like 10. Like it's so over the top and it's so fun that like you can't help but have a good time watching it. Whether you like scary movies or not. It's like a very easy. I think like I often think of Friday the 13th like riding a roller coaster, right? And with movies they say like, yeah, you get on the ride and you're just like going.
Yeah.
But like the first 3 are like going up the big hill and down the big hill, and the like first part of the roller coaster where you're like, okay, I saw this while I was waiting in line. I know where this is going. And then 4 like is like a little bit of that like twisty part where you're like, this is uncomfortable. And by the time you get to 5, it's like where the roller coaster takes like a sharp turn and you're like, ooh, I think I got whiplash right there. I don't know about this anymore.
Yes.
And then by the time you get to 7, it's like, so if anyone who's been on a roller coaster, a wooden roller coaster, like an old one, knows this moment when the roller coaster like comes into like a little hump and it takes it way too fast and you come off the seat and hit the bar and then hit the seat again. I feel like that's the moment in 7 where you're like, oh, where? Oh! And like, it doesn't make sense anymore. Like, you've been telekinesis did it yourself.
So if the first one is like the tame one, and like maybe we'll say Jason X is the most insane one, would you say that like in your analogy 7 is kind of like the average of this series?
Yeah, actually I would. I almost said 6. I almost put 6 in the average spot, but 6 has like a few bonus points because like Alice Cooper wrote a song for it. They like resurrect Jason. It's like a whole like other thing coming back to what Friday the 13th was and really like ushers in this new level of like Super Jason, like the unkillable. And 10 is where it like peaks in that like absurdity.
Yes.
I'm interested in what you think of Jason Goes to Hell.
That's 9.
Because it's another... it's 9. It's another weird departure. Like, each movie is like another weird departure from 5. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, the jump from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, and 9 to 10 are all like, what?
Yeah.
But when I was a kid... I guess. I was a teenager. I grew up in Massachusetts, and there was this place called Spooky World. And it is the inventor of the haunted hayride.
Oh, really?
Work.
Yep. It was in the woods behind Foxborough Stadium where the Patriots played. And it was like a carnival. It was like a Halloween-themed carnival that opened like the end of September, ran through October, and closed the beginning of November. and they had like all sorts of different haunted houses. It's like what like bigger productions do these days, but this was like felt like more hometowny and more small. And they would have like horror celebrities come, and so like Elvira would be there one night signing stuff.
Like
and
actually her.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool.
Well, I mean, these people weren't particularly popular coming to the late 80s. Like the slasher,
fair.
like ride had like gone down, and like I guess Elvira's movie reviews were probably popular at the time. But the night that I was there, this one time I ever went, Kane Hodder happened to be there.
Cool.
And he was signing autographs. And it was when, do you remember, it was like Movie Maniacs they were called, but they were like little figurines of horror movie killers. And they had it was like American McGee had released them or something like that.
Okay.
And there were free posters that they were giving out all over the place. And I remember as a kid being handed a free poster and being like, go meet Jason and have him sign your thing. And being like, isn't Jason famous? And being like, no, go ahead. And like going up and talking to him, and he was so sweet. And I didn't pay him anything. I was like a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
He like signed my thing, and he signed one for my brother, and like shook my hand and like took a picture or whatever. And I just remember being like kind of dazzled that I just met a famous person.
Yeah.
And like maybe my first ever. And he was so nice. And he was also like playing the scary person, but was like so friendly.
Yeah.
And it like kind of blew my mind that I've always had a huge affinity for Kane Hodder because of it. And so this is like his first of the Friday the 13th movies, and he goes on to be like the most Jasons of all the Jasons.
Yeah.
I'm like weirdly proud of him for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially being able to meet him at such a young age too, and be like, oh, okay, like this is why I'm drawn to like the chain and drawn to like horror and stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of before I'd gotten into horror movies even. It was like right at the start when like I was like feeling like friends were going to introduce me to Scream like in a year or two or something. It was around that time. So it was like probably the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
But I was like into Halloween for sure, but not really into horror. I was like a little young, maybe. I don't know.
Fair.
But it was like it's a special touch point, and that I have this Jason mask right here. You're welcome, YouTube. Signed by Kane Hodder.
Cool.
So cool.
I did not get it then. I paid him for this later, as he should be paid for things like this. Make that money, Kane.
That's
right,
awesome.
exactly.
Awesome.
Thank you for your services.
Exactly.
Yes. That's so true, though, just Matthew, to piggyback off of like why you enjoy the chain, even though it goes all in different ways, just because it's so interactive too, to watch people make horrible decisions that are so absurd and out there that like the people aren't peopling and this isn't real life, but to be on the other side of it, just kind of like talking to the screen like, what are you doing? And like, so the more crazy a movie can be, like the more interactive I become into the movie, and that's why I enjoy it so much.
Like laughing at how like what bad choices they make. Like,
Absolutely.
let's be real. This movie might as well be animated. Like, these people are almost cartoon characters.
Yes. Although I did put in one of my gripes when Teen Tina kisses Hunky Nick, and I'm like, girl, you've known him for 2 seconds, and you're kissing him. And then I was like, well, also, like, you can't act like you haven't walked into a bar and kissed a guy before that you didn't know Nikisha, so, like, don't judge her for her choices.
Wow, Nikisha really outing herself.
Don't judge her choices. So I'm like, go Teen Tina. At least you had a couple conversations with him, so there you go.
So if you notice that there wasn't a whole lot of chemistry between Tina and Hunky Nick, it's because Hunky Nick is gay.
Okay.
Teen Tina was married and lied about how old she was when she was hired for this job, and she was terrified that the producers would find out both, so she kept herself secluded from the rest of the cast. Like, they were all like, partying and fucking each other and doing drugs. It was
Yeah.
like the late 80s. Everyone was like, Coke, woo!
Right. Yeah.
But she didn't, and so everybody thought she was like so cold, but she was actually just afraid that she was going to get fired because she
so
was married.
Funny.
Oh
And in
my
her
God.
20s or something like
Something
that.
And
wild.
not like in her
That's
teens,
crazy.
like
Gay.
yeah.
This movie has been dubbed before as Fry Gay the 13th. Yeah, apparently there's like a lot of good times happening off screen.
Interesting.
I'm obsessed with everything about this movie.
Yeah.
Even just hearing all of your fun facts makes me love
Yeah.
this movie
Like
even more.
I've dived deep into it because like it's so absurd and like I need to know more.
Yeah.
I need to know more. And
there has to be more under the surface. Fantastic. Well, does anyone else have anything to add to likes and gripes before we move on?
No, but I feel like this needs to move up my list now that we've talked about it.
Truly, yes. Okay, well, let's get into our next section, which is brains. Tasty. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for Jamie, but I know Matthew had a question for Jamie, so I'm going to let Matthew go first, and then I'll ask after that.
so like they bring Tina to this lake house. And put that in quotes because I'm not sure that was a lake, but to like force her to confront the fact that she murdered her father here when she was a child, kind of against her will. Like that is like the most severe form of like immersion therapy I've ever heard of. But also like on a more serious note, Kane Hodder, when he was a young stuntman, early in his career, offered to do a fire stunt for a local reporter, and it went horribly wrong. He lit himself on fire in like it burned uncontrollably. He got second and third degree burns over 40% of his body. It almost killed him. Like he ran for his life to the nearest house. That woman like literally saved his life. So years later, after that, after he had recovered, he gets hired in this movie, and the scene when they light him on fire is a record-breaking burn for Hollywood. He's on fire for 44 seconds. The ignition of it is in camera. Like, it seems wild to me that someone who had such like a traumatic, life-threatening event happen to them would choose to immerse themselves back in that world. I don't know if I could do that. As a therapist, like, do you help someone with that? How talk to someone who wants to do that or doesn't want to do that? Like, is immersion therapy a thing?
First of all, that's a wild story, and like having that context,
Yes.
and then watching this and like seeing him go through that, like just I can't even imagine having experienced a trauma that is so directly connected to like what you were then agreeing to do, but also like it's putting yourself on the spot in this way that like, you know, has the potential to also re-traumatize you is wild to think about. But in terms of immersion therapy, I wonder if it's more akin to like real life therapy, which is exposure and response prevention therapy, which is, I think, what people think exposure therapy is. And the idea of what ERP, or exposure and response prevention therapy, is like reducing the distress that folks have around like certain fears. That's like a very basic understanding of it. And it's used a lot for folks who have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And it makes me think about that because like it's that plus like phobias, like it's rooted in like a deep, intense fear that's interfering with your ability to like function. So the idea behind ERP is helping safely remove the distress associated so that like you can function again. And the part of how it works is like creating a hierarchy of things that you're like slowly exposing yourself to over time to show yourself that you're able to tolerate that distress and therefore like reduce the anxiety and feelings that come along with like being exposed to that thing. Because a lot of, you know, if you think about things that we're afraid of, like typically we want to avoid them. We don't want to deal with them because they're spooky, they're scary, and like the idea of being around them is terrifying. Like if you think about a fear of needles, a fear of driving, like things like that, where it's like you can't do that thing, and so like it fully, like you can't even think about it. So creating a hierarchy where like if the goal is to be able to, let's say it's driving, if the goal is to be able to like get behind the wheel of a car and like go somewhere, how do you break that down into like steps to be able to make that happen? So you're not going from 0 to 100 because that's not really like reducing that distress. You're starting really, really small. It might
also
be
that's
like
speeding.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god.
But excellent car puns.
So it might start small with like, and I'm gonna like make stuff up, but like it might start with like a picture of a car, which like if you're thinking about it might seem innocuous, but like that might stir up like a little bit of anxiety because you're still thinking about it. The next might be like a video of a car driving. The next might be like going outside and like looking at a parked car, then looking at a car that's driving. So like it's these like small incremental steps that you're taking, and like with supervision, so that you're able to challenge your own fear, but also not use maybe some of the compulsions or coping skills that like allow you to avoid that fear in the first place, so that you're again like challenging your own ability to like tolerate that distress, and like again show yourself that you are capable of tolerating any level of distress as opposed to avoiding it, because that allows the distress to grow. So all of that being said, I think that, I mean, I don't know like what, and hopefully Kane got like a lot of support around that, because like, again, that's like truly a horrifying experience. I don't know if I would necessarily be like, yeah, go right back into the thing that like you already went through to, like, even if the goal was to like work through it, like also there's inherent risk involved with like doing stunts. So it's like, does it have to be this particular stunt? Can there be something else that like you get back into? But like props to him for doing it and doing it successfully. But I think that there are strategies and tools to like help revisit trauma. I think for trauma in particular, like that I might view differently. I don't know if I would re-expose people to like their trauma. But I think that there's like other tools out there that can help people process trauma, again, like in ways where they might have to talk through it, but like there's all kinds of different tools, whether it's like talk therapy or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, aka EMDR. That's why you're never going to hear me say the whole word, because it's a mouthful. But like that's also like a research-driven approach to treating trauma, where you're like revisiting and talking about traumatic experiences, but also using like bilateral stimulation, whether it's like moving your eyes back and forth or like tapping left and right back and forth to like kind of rewire your brain essentially, because trauma does super weird things to your brain, but there's all kinds of like tools and things to work through it and process it. But yeah, I don't know if I'd go straight for the like, let's dive right back in. That seems like a lot.
Absolutely.
I know there was an 11-year gap between his accident and this movie. So, like, one would assume he probably did have some help. I would hope so, for sure.
Right. To piggyback off of that, Jamie, you were talking about you wouldn't necessarily recommend putting people back in their trauma, if it's like a trauma thing. So with this movie in particular, do you feel like the doctor put Teen Tina just back into her trauma instead of like, or do you think that there was some helpfulness in her going back to the cabin, like where, and of course we know Dr. Cruz is a duty head, but just the method in general. Like, would you okay that method of putting her back into where she experienced that trauma?
Well, yeah, I think that the key part of that is like not only are they returning to like the scene of where like she was traumatized, but also he's like insulting her to like to conjure up this like reaction in her and like exploit her. So I definitely don't agree with any of this. I think that, like, you know, for folks who have experienced traumas, especially when it's tied to, like, a particular location, I found that people will avoid those places, which, again, I think is, like, totally normal and, like, a very normal response to experiencing something traumatic. I think that you have to give people their own time to decide, like, is this a place that they have to return to? Is it a place that, like, by them not returning to it is interfering with their ability to, like, function on a regular basis? You know, like, people who have been assaulted while, like, going out for a run in a particular park might avoid that park for a period of time. They might not even run for a period of time. And then, like, as they are working through and, like, processing that, like, they might eventually end up back there and, like, it feeling okay for them. But, like, I certainly wouldn't be like, you have to go there, or, like, you know, oh, it's been like, it's been a year, like, get over it, let's go to the park. Like, that's, like, none of that sounds or is helpful in any kind of way. But, like, they're, you know, for their own processing, like, they might want to revisit it. But I think also talking through, like, taking your time, giving yourself grace. Because, again, like, you can be re-traumatized. Like, there's elements of past trauma that you can re-experience that also lead to a traumatic response. So you just want to be very thoughtful and mindful about how you are navigating having experienced a trauma. Both, like, the person who experienced the trauma, but also the people, like, the support system, especially therapists. There is a huge degree of responsibility, I believe, for therapists to not re-traumatize their client, any client who has already experienced a trauma. Like, you should be trained. I also have a huge gripe whenever therapists in general say they don't do trauma. And I say that because it's actually, like, I've received referrals from other people who already have therapists who are like, well, I came to you because my therapist doesn't do trauma, and, like, you do the trauma stuff. And I was like, that's fucked up.
What is that?
That is not okay. And it made me really mad. And I get that everyone has their own specialties and whatnot. Like, I don't currently specialize in trauma, but, like, if somebody has experienced a traumatic event, I'm absolutely going to support them through it, because, like, that's my relationship with them. So I have a huge life gripe around that. But yeah, there's a huge responsibility for mental health professionals to support people effectively and not cause further harm. So I don't think that the psychiatrist gives two shits about that.
Oh, for sure. Yes, he's a terrible human being.
Just a terrible psychiatrist. I don't understand. I don't really know what his goals are here. Like, what's the point of him trying to get her to, like, use her telekinesis, like, to catch it on tape, like, and then what? Like, I just don't understand what the end game is for him at all. That is not clear. Other than, like I don't know, traumatize her further. That's, like, really the only thing that I can. But, like, what does he get from this?
Yeah, he doesn't even, like, say, like, I'm going to write a paper, or I want to resurrect Jason because he's my cousin. Like, there's nothing in there about that. Like,
cousin.
But, like, I didn't even think about that until you said it. Like,
no, I was thinking that the whole. I should have said that in the gripe, but, like, I really didn't understand, like, what his goals were. Like, he's, like, doing experiments, and he is recording it, but like he's not publishing. As far as we know, he doesn't say like, oh, I can't wait to send this to all the journals or like or make money.
Right, or like,
yeah, there's no like money scheme.
Right.
There's no seemingly no power scheme, except he is in a position of power as her psychiatrist. So like he does. I mean, he makes the comments to her mom, to Tina's mom, that he's going to rehospitalize her. So like there is a power dynamic, but it still doesn't really make sense why he would drag her out of the hospital and. Or like if she was recently hospitalized, or in general, why he would drag her here. Like, to what end? What is the point of this?
Right. Super wild. Don't get it. And that's why he's probably, would you say he's on like, if you had to rank of the bad therapist, psychiatrists, like would he be top 3? Like, where would you put him? And
I know.
We're talking
I'm
about the Hall of Fame here.
Yeah, like the one that
that's the awards,
the go-to one I think of all the time is the Hypnotic, where he's like hypnotizing people to like do his bidding. Like that's bad because they don't know about it. Like that feels like the worst because they don't know about it unless they and then they like kind of realize it later. But like they're not conscious when these things are happening. Like she is aware, but like it's still awful that he's like treating her this way. So like I would say definitely like top 5, top 3. I can't remember who else is on the list.
Okay.
The one from The Invited that lets her go. There's Hypnotic, as you mentioned. The Uninvited, don't invite them. The Uninvited. There's obviously Dr. Loomis, but the award is named after him, so he doesn't count.
Yeah,
so we can't put him in there. Okay.
Yeah, Toy Story. You can't rank Toy Story among the best Pixar because like it's the first one. It's like the original. It's Dr. Loomis.
Good point.
Those are the rules. I don't make the rules.
Those are the rules.
There was There's the one in Rosemary's Baby at the end, but he's
who's in that?
Which is Grodin plays him.
Yeah.
But like he's not necessarily bad. He's doing his job, but he didn't know that he's handing him back to the bad guys. We've come across a lot of them.
Do we not have a running list? We need a running list.
We should. I'll make one. There's the one in Splice.
Yeah.
Played by what's her name? Memory.
I don't even remember that movie.
The teacher. We didn't do it on the podcast.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking
It's the M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's what's her name? Betty Buckley in Splice.
Do you mean Split?
Split.
Nice.
Not
I was
Splice.
like, we didn't do
Split. No, Split. Sorry. Yeah, like alien genetics movie.
Splice is like a 90s like sci-fi.
Is that what it's called? Split?
Yeah.
Movie.
I did like Split. That was a good movie.
Yeah, I'll make the list. I'll put that on my to-do list. I'll make the list. I'll go through all of our movies.
Fantastic. Okay, Jamie, I just have one more question for you. So the doctor throughout the movie threatens to put Teen Tina back into the hospital, and he makes a comment to her mom that he was like, I'm going to do this and I'll do it without your permission. So my question is, can a psychiatrist, psychologist, whomever, commit an underage person without their parents'
Good question.
consent?
Good question.
Good question.
Yes. So the rules, as far as I know, are around if somebody of any age is a safety threat to themselves or someone else. If they like explicitly say that they want to like cause harm, that they want to kill themselves, that they want to cause harm, kill somebody else, then that's like a limit of confidentiality, which is something that like every mental health professional when you first meet with them should explain, that like all conversation, here's my spiel, all conversations and communications between us are protected by law, unless you tell me that you want to harm yourself, harm somebody else, or there's a child at risk of being abused or neglected. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So
Yes.
that's the limit to our to your confidentiality. So that means that like I can in turn like contact EMS to come and evaluate you to like bring you to the hospital. Then the hospital can also evaluate you and determine like if it warrants inpatient hospitalization. And again, like if that risk is identified, then like there's a very high likelihood that you would be admitted into the hospital. And then from that point, it's usually like at minimum anywhere from like a 24 to 72 hour hold where the hospital is observing you to see like does that risk change, like does your risk of self-harm or like harming somebody else lower at any point. And like you're probably already going through like brief therapy. They might medicate you as well. And then at that 72-hour mark, they decide if they want to keep you for longer for observation. Sometimes it could be like a week. Sometimes it could be much, much longer. So again, like that's kind of the like basis that you're being evaluated to see if you should remain in the hospital or not. But that is inclusive of minors. So even if you are underage, if you're still presenting with that same like risk to yourself or to others, you can still be hospitalized even without the permission of a parent. There are situations where like a parent might want to hospitalize their child and like they give consent. But like those are other unique circumstances. So like, again, this is like at bare bones, like across the board, what all mental health professionals should be evaluating with folks that they're working with is like safe to yourself, safe to others. If you are not, and it should be a conversation. Like it's more than just like saying it. Like, do you have a plan? Like, what is the intent? Do you have access to like the means to follow through? Like all of that is really important information that determines whether or not like you should call EMS or like that the likelihood of somebody being hospitalized. And you should always talk about safety planning with folks as well, even young people.
Right. Wonderful. Limited confidentiality.
The limits to confidentiality.
Got it. Which that absolutely makes sense. And we've talked about that too with other movies and, you know.
Actually, I'm remembering the one that we talked about that with. It was actually with Matt.
Yes.
It was the Ready or Not dad in Scream 6, where she goes to the, when she goes to the
her therapist. Yeah.
And he's like,
he's like, oh, I'm going to have to report this, like if you're talking about it.
Yep.
But she's not actually like saying that she wants to kill somebody.
Yeah.
She's just like kind of making sense of like how she's feeling, and then like that shuts the conversation down.
And also talking about killing someone in self-defense in the past.
Yes.
It's not no intent for future, but like
something that already
this was hard on me. I don't bring it up because people are afraid of me because of it.
Right.
Good callback, Brian.
Crazy. Yes, Brian. Thank you.
I got to make this list now.
Right. I'm super excited. I can't wait for our award show. Like, we really need to make that episode.
We should have an end of year award show for worst.
Yeah, for all the movies that we did the past year.
Yeah.
We like hand out the awards. I love that. We'll invite Matt back to help us vote.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great.
Yes. Fantastic. Okay, that's all that I have. Jamie, you have given us so much. Thank you for your knowledge and for me continually just having you be a catch-all for all therapists and psychologists. I thank you for your service.
So welcome.
So let's get into some rotten tomatin, guys.
Rotten tomatin.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
What do you think this movie has on Rotten Tomatoes? What is the percent? Matt, let's start with you.
Yo, it cannot be good. It can't. It just can't.
That's so true.
Although I bet there's a huge discrepancy between the critics' score and the audience score. I bet it has a much higher audience score because people like us are like, this is awesome. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
But all right, in school, but anything below a 65 is failing. So I'm gonna go with a 22.
All right.
Oh, that's so.
All right.
Okay.
Nikisha, what do you got?
I'm gonna say 42.
All right. Jamie?
I'm going to say 32.
Great.
All right. The answer is 35%.
Whoa! Oh, wow.
Pretty good.
As lumbering and bereft of conscious thought as its unstoppable star, Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, finds the franchise in desperate need of the title ingredient.
I mean, fair.
Yeah.
It is the least bloody of them.
Yeah. But Matt, it actually only has a 37% audience score.
They're all wrong.
What?
They're all
They're all wrong.
Yeah, incorrect.
They are.
Sorry.
I thought the same thing that you did before I looked. I thought it was going to be 35% and 62% or 80% or something like that. That was actually surprising. And the audience, the critics' consensus is based on 26 reviews, whereas the audience score is over 50K ratings.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? And it still came out?
Yeah, that's surprising
to
me.
Very close. It was very surprising.
But should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Skull, scares, shakes, and suggestions. The talking horns, 4 S's.
The 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We are going to rank them 1 through 10, how we felt this movie handled mental health and human behavior, how scary was it, and how much you're going to shake this off. Is this a one and done? Will you remember this? And then we'll go around and do our suggestions. But Jamie, let's start with you. What would you give your skulls, scares, and shakes?
Yeah. So for skulls, I gave this a 2 because people these are not human beings. These are, I don't know what they are, but they are not making smart choices. I think the 2 points I'm giving it is for Tina being we gotta go. And it loses all the points when what's his face hunky guy's no, we gotta find my friends. Fuck your friends. Let's go.
They're all dead.
They're
all
dead.
Right.
For scares, I'm giving this a 1. I did not find this movie scary. Again, I still had a great time. But I'm guessing that downplaying all of the kills kind of dampens the scary value.
For sure.
For shakes, I'm giving this a 2 only because earlier today I literally remarked that I had forgotten that I had watched this just yesterday. But I did really enjoy this conversation. And I think I have a much greater appreciation for this film now. Maybe I'll give it a 3.
This conversation is longer than the movie.
There's just so much to
there really is.
Yeah.
It's true.
Nikisha?
Okay, skulls, I gave it a 1 because, people aren't peopling. Scares, I gave it a 0. It was not scary. It was hilarious to me. And I'm giving this a 6 for shakes because I was laughing so much throughout it. I had the best time. And now I literally think when we get done with this podcast, I'm going to go back and watch 6. Because,
6 is great.
it was just fun.
6 is great.
Funny.
Movie.
So, yeah.
Matt?
For skulls, I gave it a 1 because, like I said before, these might as well be cartoon characters.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
For scares, I gave it a 2. I didn't find this scary at all, but I can see how other people might be like, ooh, Jason, or that cat jump scare got me, or something like that. And for shakes, I gave it a 7. I would give it a higher score, because I love it so much and I think about it all the time when Friday the 13th comes up, but I had to knock a few off because, like Jamie, I rewatched this movie recently and was like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that.
That's
I'm
hilarious.
a 1 for skulls, a 1 for scares, and I'm a 6 for shakes. Because, like, I've been watching all these, and this one stands out as being nutso. So, like,
It is nutso.
this is, like, when you're talking, this is going to sound so silly, but, like, I talk about the Friday the 13th franchise, like, a lot, whether it's just with myself or I'm on Letterboxd. Or like on this podcast or even on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. Like, how does this not make, like, this movie is so absurd, it has to make a million lists. Like if you're like, Matt and I text sometimes and talking about this franchise and stuff like this, and like this one comes up all the time because, like, this is just a special movie, however you're using special in context. Like, you know, like there's something about this movie that, like you said, this is the Friday the 13th average. Like, I get that. I totally get that.
Love it.
But if you so Matt, I've been obsessed with the app Letterboxd. So I make tons of lists. Everyone can follow me at BP527. So as I'm watching all these movies, this website was made for me. It's like ranking, and like I have a diary of all the movies I've watched, and like it's amazing. It's like when we used to go to drinks after work and like talk about like how we would rank our Wes Anderson movies and stuff like that. This is literally just the digital version of that, and I'm obsessed with it. Anyway, so here's my rankings of the Friday the 13th movies that I've seen so far. So
that list terminates at 7. Oh no, you've seen 10.
I've seen 10, and I've seen the 2009 remake,
but not a. Okay.
Oof. So I'm missing, rough. And it does not include also Freddy vs. Jason.
Cool.
Okay, so at number 9, we have Friday the 13th Part 5: A New Beginning.
That's your least favorite.
That's my least favorite. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but
I know I want to say it, but
there's just and honestly, the reason that most people don't like this movie is not the reason I don't like this movie. I actually think that's super interesting. Yeah, I just think this movie totally falls flat. I think this movie has too many red herrings that don't make sense. Nothing really happens in this movie. I don't know. This doesn't feel like a Friday the 13th movie in some ways. At number 8, I have Friday the 13th Part 3. I could not tell you one thing that happens in this movie except for he gets the mask. Oh, the bikers.
That was the only thing I was going to say. He gets the mask.
And the bikers. The bikers who end up coming to the house and like looking for them because the nerdy kid knocks their bikes over as they're leaving. Anyway,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess.
Yeah. At number 7 is the 2009 Friday the 13th. We covered it on this podcast. The first 20 minutes of this movie or 15 minutes is awesome. The sleeping bag, the Ben Feldman like in the woods and looking for the weed, like that's fun. And then once you get to like the house stuff and the fact that the final girl is not who you think it is horseshit. That is horseshit. That is so unsatisfying that she doesn't make it to the end. I won't spoil it. When we did but anyway, I hate that. So at number 6 is the movie we just talked about. New Blood.
Okay.
Then I have at number 5. I have The Final Chapter. Which
is 4.
4 with Corey Feldman.
Yes.
Is that 4 or is that? That's 4. Corey Feldman. Crispin Glover's in that one, I think.
He does the dance.
Yeah. I thought that. I actually think that's a great movie. And then at number 4, Jason Lives. I freaking loved Jason Lives.
It's great.
It's there is no better character in all of the Friday the 13th movies than the gravekeeper drinking.
Oh my God.
He's like, no one's gonna believe me. I went to high school. Like, he calls him a duty head. I think he calls him a duty head in the movie.
I think that's why I've been saying it so much.
Yeah, great film. Fart head. Maybe he calls him a fart head.
Oh yeah.
Okay. At number 3, and I actually think at number 3 is part 2. I actually think this is actually the best one.
Part 2 is great.
Ginny is an underrated final girl. She's amazing. The jump scares at the end, the whole shack sequence at the end with Ginny and like dressing up as Pamela and like all the stuff going back is awesome. It's a great movie. At number 2, we have Jason X for all the reasons.
Oh, love it.
And number 1, I think based purely on nostalgia, is the original. I think that the twist at the end, knowing who Jason is and then watching that movie with the twist at the end is actually more interesting than like it being like a Jason movie, if you will. It actually is a better movie knowing that the other movies exist.
I think it still surprises modern audiences because everybody knows Jason and knows Friday the 13th as Jason is the killer. And then they watch the original and everyone's like, what?
Even though
this movie isn't about Jason?
That literally, I was like, and then they didn't watch Scream because they tell you in Scream.
Wait, but did that totally differ from your list? Like, if you had a list, like, does that completely differ?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I would have to think more about it, but it's pretty close. I wouldn't rank. I don't mind 5 as much. I hated it the first time I saw it, and I have a great appreciation for it after.
Sure. If we did it on this podcast, which we should at some point, I'm sure you have tons of fun facts that will change my opinion about it completely.
Maybe. But yeah, I think otherwise it's pretty close. Love Jason X, love the original, love 2. Don't remember 3 almost at all.
Yeah, 3 sucks.
Yeah, that tracks.
Actually, now that we're talking about it, I actually think I would move 3 to my least favorite because I remember 5.
Oh, yeah.
Fair.
But anyway, suggestions. What would you suggest to go along with this? Matt, why don't we start with you?
I have things in different medias.
Ooh.
Just a couple. So my number 1 suggestion, if you are a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise, which I am, the reason that I have this autographed Jason mask from sweet Kane Hodder is because I got it from a Kickstarter when I funded the documentary film To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story, which is about his life and career. It made me cry. It is lovely. You should definitely watch it.
Cool.
He talks a lot about this movie because it's his first big role. He's playing Jason, this iconic character. He's both the stunt man, the stunt coordinator. Like, it's great. You should definitely watch it. If you are a fan of franchises that go off the rails, I would suggest Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4: The Next Generation.
Ooh,
it stars a young Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
Oh, that's that one.
It's that one.
Yeah, okay.
Dang.
It was absolutely panned when it came out. It didn't even make its budget back.
Oh, no.
But it has since found a cult following because it is bonkers.
Yes. Oh,
kind of like this, like it goes way askew from what the fuck are they talking about? Like, I think there's like robo limbs in it and like human puppetry and
Has me at robo limbs.
Obsessed.
Nikisha, what do you have?
I just have another chain adjacent that deals with like the mind in a way. So I have Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because like the boy gets possessed by Freddy in that one. And then
that's also like the queer out. The if this is Friday the 13th, that's the
there you go,
the gayest Freddy movie.
Because and also he's like the first male protagonist in the Nightmare like chain was in the second one.
And that movie's wild.
And then it's wild. But then also Nightmare on Elm Street 3 because Dream Warriors and all that stuff, and that girl's like bringing people into her dreams and stuff like that, and so I thought that was a little bit adjacent to Teen in her mind.
So good.
Adjacent.
Oh wow.
Yes. Great. That's all I got.
Jamie?
Yeah, I went full telekinesis Rex. So obviously Carrie is on the list. I would also suggest Chronicle, which isn't like full-blown horror, but like it's got like spooky vibes. And then I went with like one of the most popular like animes ever, Akira. Great movie, great story. Again, not like true horror, but like it's like very cyberpunky. But it's great.
Cool. And I went Firestarter, the original one. Yeah.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Work.
Oh
Fantastic.
my gosh, none of us said Stranger Things.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I didn't even think
Go us.
I was trying to think more absurd.
Our newest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got to be sillier than that.
Yeah, it has to be way sillier. Stranger Things is too good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, I think that wraps up our episode of Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New
Before we go,
Blood.
can I ask you one question? I do this to you every time. Can I ask one thing?
Absolutely.
I know this answer from Brian, but did anyone go to like a summer camp or like a sleepaway camp?
No.
You did? What was it like? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
I did love it. I like to call myself a camp connoisseur because I have done like literally every single kind of camp that has existed as a child.
All right.
Like both my parents worked full time.
I don't think I knew
this. So I did like local after school day camp. Then I did like everyday day camp. Then I did day travel camp with the YMCA where every day we would go to a different location like the zoo or the beach or a water park or an amusement park. Then I did sleepaway camp proper. And I went to, I think it was like Camp Cayuga, which I think something really terrible happened there. I had looked it up recently. No, Brian, we talked about this in the car, remember?
We did.
I forget, we were like driving to or from the Catskills and we passed it. And I was like, wait, that was my camp. And then I was like Googling it and then I think like a murder happened. I can't confirm nor deny. You'll have to do some research yourself. But I think I had a good time. I did that for like 2 summers, and I was like young enough to be on like there was like a young side and a teen side. So I was like young enough to be on young enough to be on the young side, and then like the next year I was on like the teen side. So I got like a mix of both. And it was fun. I learned some camp staples like Gaga. We had a Color Wars. The food was fine. Had some good bunkmates. But I didn't keep in touch with anybody from camp. Like I know a lot of other people have. Like Brian, I know like you still have friends from camp, which I think is so impressive. It's such a like unique experience that's so short that like I think that's great to be able to like make those really strong connections and like they last like literally forever. Didn't your mom just like reconnect? Like she was talking about people she's still friends with from camp.
Yeah,
it's truly wild to me. It's such a weird, unique
truly
thing.
Wild. Yeah.
Short but formative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. Fantastic. I have not experienced camp. I always wanted to go to summer camp, so I'll just live vicariously.
We should have an adult
and
summer
like
camp.
Jumping on giant inflatable things and
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine what goes on.
Sounds great.
That sounds great. I miss camp every day. I miss sleepaway camp every single day. I want every day to be like sleepaway camp, not the film. The real life experience.
Thank you for clarifying.
Oh wow!
What was it? Eat shit and die? Isn't that a quote from there?
Eat shit and live.
Oh, yes.
That whole baseball sequence in that movie, the things they say, is truly a highlight of doing this podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
A+. Yeah.
Coupled with the men in crop tops.
Right.
So throw that out there.
Yeah. That's part of it. Very important.
Very important.
I went to a day camp. There was like you said, Jamie. Like I was like. Probably in my early teens. Wow, a lot of these things coincide. I wonder why. Why I am the way I am. And so we would go on like adventures. But my senior year of high school, I brought this topic up selfishly. I was a counselor at the same camp. It was like a Y camp. And halfway through the summer, the teenage campers were spending an overnight camping at the camp, just like pitching tents, and like it was in like the town. It was not, they could go home when they wanted to, and that sort of thing. So me and my other friend, who's a counselor, were like, hey, while they're sleeping over, we should totally get dressed up and scare them.
No.
So we called the counselors that were their counselors, and we're like, we have this idea. What do you think? And they were like, absolutely. This is going to become a camp tradition. What a good idea. Can't wait. Just make sure that you let them know right before you show up. They're like, great. So like, there's no confusion if there's like a real killer, if it's me.
You got to be specific.
So, yeah, I got to be specific. So we get dressed up, masks. We had like plastic weapons, like axes and stuff. We go to this camp. We call the counselors, like, hey, it's us. We're coming in. And we did not come running in. We stood on the tree line and just like waited for someone to notice, and then walked away into the woods.
What?
And that was the bad choice, and that like these kids were really, really scared.
Oh no.
And yeah, I to this day feel guilty about it. I got fired for it.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry.
I chose it.
I mean, but
it's like, it's something now that like I laugh about, but at the time it was traumatic on both ends of the experience.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, but what like a fun idea to do, but totally like sad that I
had fun the whole time until the end when I was getting in trouble and was like, oh no, I didn't understand this is how this was going.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, kids, it's like, come on, guys.
Traumatized some teenagers in my teenage years.
Just casually traumatizing
I hope they like
people.
Friday the 13th.
Right.
I know.
That's wild.
It's okay. We hope those kids are okay.
But while we still have you, I know you do a lot of fun things on your Instagram during Halloween, during this month. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and where people can find you.
Yes.
So mostly I use Instagram, which is at HallowWoods. Hallow like Halloween and woods like trees. 2 W's in the middle. I am selling a Halloween countdown calendar that I make every year. It goes October to October. It is all sorts of illustrations of mine and spooky dates, anniversaries of horror movies, fun things to celebrate throughout the year to keep Halloween going from October to October. It is
Jamie and I's primary hanging calendar in the kitchen all year. It's the best.
Yes.
We love it.
Thank you so much.
That's
I appreciate
wonderful.
that. I'm also in the midst of doing Inktober, which is like a daily drawing prompt, and I'm illustrating little ghosts that I auction on Instagram every day. So look out for that. I have artwork hanging up in 3 different locations in New York City, which I think is a career first for me.
Congrats.
3 at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks. And other than that, just like trying to do fun, spooky stuff without
traumatizing
scaring
kids.
any campers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Fun scary. Fun scary.
We will have in the description of this episode, you can find all the links to Matt. So his website, Instagram, all of that. So you can check that out in the description. Definitely find him and follow him immediately. If you're a new listener, if you're a listener who has heard him before but didn't click the link, you should do it today. I think that's important to do.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
It's a good time to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, I think that is it for us and Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. You can follow us on all of the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Talk Horror Pod, P-O-D. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
Wherever you listen to podcasts. So on YouTube, there's one. Hi, YouTube. You can listen to us and watch us there. The second thing you can find us on is like Spotify and, of course, Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy that you introduced us to this one, so that we can just like truly dive into Friday the 13th.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's more bonkers to come. You're not done.
I got 2 more to enjoy. But thank you so much. We appreciate you, what you bring to the horror fan community and just the horror community in general. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here with you always.
Yes. We'll be seeing you again soon. So Matthew frequents our podcast.
We have to do our awards.
There'll be another one.
We have to do.
We have to do the
and
awards.
then whenever Scream 7 comes out, starring Michelle Rodriguez.
Starring Michelle Rodriguez. You heard it first here, folks.
Yes.
Heard it here for her. Yeah.
Exciting times. Okay, Brian, do you have a quote you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think it just proves my point. Let me tell you something about women. I got a date with soap on the rope. I don't know.
Just all.
There's another good one. She's like, I knew you the first time. I knew I liked you the first time I saw the size of your enormous
wallet.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh
my god, that's a great one.
So good.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.